Hi, welcome to the Chad Bozarth Show. Thanks for listening. Dr. Jenn Murff, how are you?
Hi, my friend. How are you doing?
Oh, I am doing so good. So let me start off by saying you are already way more technical than I am. So I have my little system that I do with my podcast, and I get it revved up and going, and I get a notification that Read AI meeting notes is recording.
Yeah.
Uh, what is going on?
So Read AI, Zoom also has something very similar, but it will send me quotes. It will send me everything that I would need, deliverables, follow-ups, everything that I would need. So it's like an assistant. Even though I have an assistant, there is something very beautiful about having everything documented. It's also beautiful for board meetings, for other activities that you're doing in your space. So whether you're in business or a nonprofit space, it matters.
So that is so interesting because I've been very interested in AI for a while. I follow it as best I can. And of course, I used different things, Grok and ChatGPT, but how have you been able to integrate AI into actually your personal workflow and what you do, where it's not just some novelty, playing around, where it's actually helping you?
So when we're doing like our strategic planning, I will put aspects of our strategic plan in an AI tool, whether it's ChatGPT or there are other tools that we use, and it helps us just build out the structure of things so that we're not wasting time. And so I feel like we have maximized our time, and financially it's responsible because I'm not spending human resources. I'm actually spending funds on technology that cuts our time and we get more done. So we've been able to quadruple our, I'm not even kidding. I want to exaggerate, and I should, because to be quite honest, it has changed our organization's life.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, there are even tools that my husband, he does a lot with AI. And so he does these whole video projects where he is actually, he has his prompts. He tells the AI avatar that looks just like him what to say, what to do, and it does it in the languages that we work in. So imagine, in Kurdish or in Farsi. And so it will actually do everything, but it's what we're saying. It's pretty unbelievable, truly. Now, think about trying to find subject matter experts that speak Kurdish or Farsi. You can't find everyone. For one,
Hmm.
it's hard. But there are subject matter experts that speak English, and we take their content. Now, not if it's not culturally relevant, and that matters, Chad, because in all honesty, the things that people need in Afghanistan are very different than what they need here in the US. And so context matters when it comes to cultural nuances. So,
Very interesting. Well, that's so. Oh, this is just great. It's great to see you. Sorry to jump right in
no,
without more
I'm glad.
formalities. I saw this stuff. I'm like, okay, what is happening? Um, it's
Here,
so
and
great.
I will send you what I have, and you can see exactly what we do. And so you can have it on your side too. So you can
I
use.
would love that. Have
Okay.
you by any chance put together anything? Obviously, you know about our organization. Have you put anything together that could maybe help someone like me? Um, Better understand how I could utilize AI in our workflows.
Well, yes, we have courses at the center just focused on utilizing and maximizing AI to have greater kingdom impact. So here's the thing. So my kids just started their school, and there was this uh, teacher, like principal lady says, we do not use AI, all this stuff. And my daughter, she's a senior in high school, raised her hand and says, I actually think it's great if you do it ethically. And so there are these opportunities. If we don't teach our children in the next generation how to ethically use something that could significantly change our culture and life, then you're going to really, I think it's a disadvantage. Now, again, we have to go over ethics. We have to go over how to handle it properly. So there is a responsibility of a parent or of a workplace or whatever on how to use this tool that does not hurt the reputation of kingdom purposes. So there is both and.
Mm,
These are good teaching opportunities, whether it's with our children or in the workplace.
yeah, that's good. It reminds me of I, going to business school, and I really have forgotten so much. I don't even know how I made it through some of those accounting classes. Like, I truly don't. Like, but the one thing, my favorite teacher, I remember him emphasizing over and over again that the environment is constantly changing, and if your organization is not willing to change, it's over.
It's true.
And I guess that was a lot of money to spend for that one major takeaway, but
That's fair. That's fair. However, it's worth it. It's worth it.
but that was my major takeaway. Okay. So Jen, we go back like what, over 20 years,
Over 20 years.
and you have done so much in the last 20 years. I don't even know where to begin. I'm so interested in talking to you. We've already kind of jumped right in, but I want to really jump into the deep waters right off the bat. You were giving a presentation and you got a headache. What happened?
So I was at a conference focused on the Middle East. So I run an organization called the MENA Leadership Center. And I was given, they called up three women, one from Iran, one from Yemen, and myself. And they began to kind of prophetically speak over, say, these three women are going to do great things for the kingdom. And I thought, me? I am just a sweet girl from Louisiana. And I remember thinking, God, thank you. But I get up on stage and I began to have the worst headache of my life. And I thought, maybe it was the lack of sleep. Maybe, maybe it was the red wine. I was a white wine girl then. Who knew? I don't know. Like, who knew what the issue was? But I just tried to play it off, kept going through the conference. And at one point, we're on this yacht because it's like a big, all ministries were gathered and funders were on there. And I can't even have a conversation. I literally go to the bottom of this yacht and find a corner. And I remember kind of kneeling down, like I could. I mean, when I say this pain was so bad, it was horrific.
Hmm.
And I end up, we still had several days left, I think 2 more days. Headache still stayed. I get back stateside. Well, actually, I'm on the plane and I'm with my friend Pierre Houssini, and he runs a organization called Horizons out of Lebanon. And we're dreaming up so many things. We're going to partner here and partner there and all these great things. And I said, Pierre, I love you, but I need to stop talking to you. My head is just hurting and I can't get any relief. I've taken medicine, I've done everything. And the plane was empty. I've never been on an empty plane. It's always like sardines. Uh, and I go and I stretch out, you know, 3 seats. I'm 4'11", so that I can actually stretch out on 4 seats. And it's great. I mean, I think my feet were still hanging over. And I get back stateside, and my mother-in-law goes, "You really need to go to the hospital." And I said, "I don't think I do." I said, she goes, "No, you really do." And this was the moment that she could be bossy, and it was great. And so I drove myself to the hospital because it was nothing. And I get to the hospital and I hear the words arteriovenous malformation. And it is a cluster of veins in your brain. You're born with it. So, Chad, all those years ago at CFNI and DBU, I had an AVM and had no idea. I would get headaches, but not like this.
Hmm.
Lord, you just gave me a prophetic word that you were going to use me. And now you're telling me that I have a grade 5, which is the worst before death, and that I could lose my ability to see, lose my ability to walk, lose my ability to function, to speak, everything. And I just thought, I thought your promises were yes and amen. I'm real confused by this. But I know that the Lord gave me promises, and I couldn't be shaken by it. And so I began to do my own due diligence, and I began to look for surgeons, one surgeon after another surgeon, both here in the US and abroad, either wouldn't return my phone calls or denied me care. And I read this article out of Brigham and Women's Hospital from a young mom. She has 3 sons, and then she also was like kind of, she didn't have custody of her niece, but she had 4 kids. She was, being a parent too. And she went through the surgery. Now she had a grade 3, and which was still bad, but she was able to have surgery, get back. She was a painter. So she painted houses and things like that. So we're talking about strenuous work. And so I thought, if she can do this, I can do this. So I called her, or reached out to her. And then I also reached out to the surgeon that the article was about. Dr. Patel gets back to me sooner than my friend did. And he says, Jen, my question to you is, do you want to be treated or do you want to be healed?
Hmm.
And I said, well, I want to be healed. I said, I have 4 daughters. I don't, I have so much to live for. And, um, and so I end up talking to um, the patient as well. And that within like a week or so. And Dr. Patel ended up, I got confirmation from her that, she was doing well. She was doing fantastic. And then, of course, so I ended up having the conversation with Dr. Patel beforehand. I'm sorry, I'm getting my, can you edit any of this, by the way?
I can, yeah.
Just because my kids let my dog in, and
Oh, that's okay. I normally don't edit because I love, like, this is a great
then
moment too.
they'll just keep it just like this. Sorry, I have 4 kids. They let the dog.
No, that's so perfect. That's perfect.
Not so. Wait. So Dr. Patel, he gets he gets back with me before the patient, and I pull my mentors together, all of the people who run Strategic Resource Group, or several of the men who are the founders, but there's one in particular named Dennis Neal. He was the CFO of Strategic Resource Group. They helped plant the seeds financially for the center to be launched.
Hmm.
And he would say, could you record your conversations with your surgeon? I want to walk with you through this.
Hmm.
And I would send him, the conversation, and he would send me back questions. And we just went before the Lord. Chad, I was really scared. If I can be quite honest, I thought, Lord, you have promises for me. You've told me that you were going to use me. And now you're about to take my ability to walk away if I don't, even if I had the surgery. Now, I went forward with the surgery. It didn't go very well, Chad. There were
Hmm.
things that happened that no one knew. My husband would give updates and things like that. Um, but like, I had an infection in my skull cap. So they went in, they did the first surgery, and Dr. Patel said, I didn't get it all. I need to go in a second time. And then they ended up, I was still in a coma, and they went and did scans. And then a week later, I ended up having another surgery because they realized they didn't get it all, because it was diffused. It was like, it wasn't just in one spot. It was like wrapping around my brain.
Hmm.
And, and so they ended up going in for the third time. But when they went in, they ended up, an infection set in and necrosis set in. So they had to remove my skull cap.
Mm.
Had nothing protecting my brain. Don't let all this voluptuous hair think that this was normal. Like I had to shave all my hair, not like cancer. Remember, nothing was chemically
Sure.
based. It was, so they ended up having to remove my skull cap.
Mm.
Just one infection after another infection after another infection. And of course, my surgeon fought for me. We had insurance issues. We had people who, um, you know, it was a fight. It was an uphill battle. I would, I want to say that it was easy, but it wasn't.
Mm.
And then I ended up having to get a shunt in my brain, which takes, because remember, when they moved the mass, it was like a crater in my brain. And so fluid
Mm.
fill it.
Mm.
And so they ended up having to put a shunt in. Well, because of the infections, they had to postpone the shunt. And so there was this moment whenever I was in Spalding Rehab Facility. So there was a month and a half, the first set of surgeries. And then when I had to go relearn to walk and lift my arms, do everything you could think about as a child having to learn everything because I have no feeling on the right side of my body. So I always say, if you need to hit something, hit me on my right side because I can't feel it. However, it's, I'm at the rehab facility and something happened that was not great, and an infection. They found an infection and they weren't able to go and put the shunt in, which was life saving. Really, like, you have fluid, and after a certain while, you have gray matter that will set in your brain. And Dr. Patel, he comes into like the little triage area and he says, Jen, I can't do the surgery. And
Mm.
Chad, I'm a fighter. I'm not a
Mm.
crier. I'm not a, though I want to cry right now, I'm a fighter. And when he came in, he said, Jen, I'm not going to be able to do the surgery. There was some negligence that happened at this facility.
Mm.
And you have such a bad infection that we can't do it. And I knew what that meant. And I remember throwing the blanket over my head and I just wept and I thought, God, what are you doing? And so Dr. Patel comes in later in the afternoon because they put me in a really sweet, bougie area. And he says, I am so sorry. And I said, Dr. Patel, you are a good doctor, but I serve the great physician and I am going to be okay. The Lord was so clear that I was to have the surgery. He was so clear that he was going to provide healing. He was so clear, and I don't think that he makes mistakes. I think that he is a good God. And he says, okay, let's, all right. And then I asked, we had this long conversation that I'll never forget. Um, and then I end up getting released from this hospital about a week later to get transported back to Virginia, where I lived at the time. And I end up, at this point, I still wasn't walking.
Mm.
We had some pretty horrible moments that happened remember, I couldn't stand yet, unassisted. And I get on the plane and they have an airline stewardess or security guard. She goes, ma'am, please stand up. And I said, I can't stand up. She goes, you need to stand up. And my husband is yelling from the security, don't let her stand. And of course, I'm mortified, Chad. I mean, when I say that I'm mortified, but I'm too afraid and too prideful. So I finally figure out a way to get my balance to stand and get on the plane. And I remember I do this thing whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed. I throw blankets over my head. I throw the blanket over my head the whole flight. And I just think, Lord, you told me to do this. You told me that you weren't just going to bring, you weren't just going to treat me, that you were going to bring healing. Why is this happening? I'm real confused by this. And that was probably one of my hardest moments, actually.
Mm,
I've had a lot of hard moments, but that was one of them. So I get back to Virginia. I get to the rehab facility. I learn to walk again, learn to, lift my arms. I start exercising, doing all the things that I needed to do. Still was in therapy probably for about 6 months to 9 months, depending on. And and then I go back to work almost a year later from the time I start the surgery to the time I go back to work or I ease back in and end up having other surgeries. Like they had to change my shunt again. Um, you know, I don't understand why hard things happen to people who love the Lord, even people who don't know love the Lord. I don't understand. I do know that it has shaped me. I do know that there's a difference between being empathetic and compassionate. There is a difference between, um, it changed me. It truly changed me. I'm naturally a fighter. You want me on your side? Like I'm 4'11", but I'm the one who wants to jump over, you know, the rails to be able to protect someone who can't protect themselves. I'm naturally like that. This has probably intensified it, where I see people who are hurting and I want to walk with them through things on an organizational level. It's given me even more of a drive and a purpose to do the things of the Lord. Um, I mean, hard things change us.
mm.
Hard things.
How was it, given all of your responsibilities in dealing with, I mean, a life-threatening situation like that? How was it communicating with your kids during that time? What did that, if you feel comfortable sharing, like how can you even communicate some of those things to your kids?
I was so busy trying to heal. I didn't really have a lot of extra to communicate clearly.
Mm,
I was so, I was in therapy, from 8 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon.
mm,
I was trying to regain every function that's natural to a human. It just was not natural to me for
mm,
a while. It was a fight. And so I would FaceTime with them. There was a story that so I was at Brigham and Women's. They transfer me to Spalding, which is the rehab facility. And at the rehab facility, I asked my husband, he was only allowed to be there a certain amount of hours. And so I said, leave my phone. I want to listen to music. I think worship music got me through. I'm not a TV watcher. I've never been a TV watcher, but music was the one way that I was able to think and process. And so my husband leaves my phone for the first time, and I asked the nurse or the aide, will you grab my phone for me? And again, remember, I didn't have function on the hand that works. So I go to put in my password to put on music, and my phone shook. And I thought, that's interesting. I go to put in my password again. My phone shook. I was like, maybe I pushed the wrong number. Did it again, locked me out 1 minute. Did it again, 5 minutes, an hour, 5 hours. And I thought, I have had the same password literally my whole adult life after getting married. And I can't remember my password. Lord, I only have one thing to offer the world, and that's my brain. I'm small. I, but God, you've given me a brain. And the one thing I have to use for your kingdom, you're taking from me.
mm,
But if you do, God, if you choose not to give me back what you've given me, I will still serve you, but I'm mad at you. And sometimes evangelicals, we're afraid to tell God hard things. We are afraid to tell God what he already knows. because everything has to be. Remember that song, He Gives and Takes Away? And then
Yeah.
the big evangelical split between that song where they're like, no, God doesn't do bad things. Yes, he does allow bad things.
Yeah.
There,
He's quoting Job. I mean,
exactly, exactly. There is a theology of suffering. There is suffering that exists in the world.
I will tell you, Jen, I shouldn't probably say this publicly, but I will. I seem to remember hearing of a church that wanted to edit that line out. They sang the song, but they didn't want the line he takes away in there.
Exactly. I remember this conversation happening at CFNI about this very song. And it's always stuck in my heart. The Lord doesn't take away. He doesn't, and he does. I mean, he allows things to happen. He walks with us through this journey, but we know suffering exists in the world.
Mm,
We know there's loss. We know that there's suffering. Uh, we just don't talk about it as evangelicals, this understanding of a theology of suffering. Well, how do you walk with people through suffering?
mm,
How do you look at the Iranian or the Yemenis? How do you look at people that we serve and tell them that suffering doesn't exist?
mm,
It does exist. Whether you have an AVM or whether you're in Yemen going through civil war, like the thing is suffering exists. And when we just try to act like it doesn't exist, we do disservice to the Lord as well as to his people. It exists. It exists. And so it really changed my life to think through. Now, I haven't unwrapped this theology of suffering. The Catholics have done a beautiful job at unwrapping this idea because they're not afraid of it. I I'm unwrapping it. I don't like it.
mm.
I'm just being raw, but I don't like it. I don't want my kids to hurt, but they have when they seen mama go through things. You know, this was, I remember whenever I was in the hospital, I, while I couldn't function in a lot of areas, I told Justin, I said, make sure our kids are getting the therapy that they need right now. And so before I even got out of the hospital, I tried to make sure that they were being healed in some areas because anytime you go through something traumatic, it doesn't just affect the patient. It affects the spouse. It affects the children. It affects other caregivers in their life. And so it is it's cyclical. It's bigger and it can be hard, but I mean, the Lord obviously allowed it. So I do.
Let me ask,
Go ahead.
go ahead. Well, so how, given your experience right now, somebody who is sitting in Bible college or seminary or wherever, and they have a heart to serve hurting people, but maybe they haven't gone through what you've gone through. How can we think of how can we I'm not even sure the question I'm trying to ask. There's a difference between reading a book about suffering and experiencing suffering.
Yeah.
And the ministry that flows out of that is going to be different. So what would you say to somebody who's in Bible school or seminary right now that has a heart to minister to people who are suffering, but maybe haven't suffered on a certain level? Everybody suffered, but maybe hasn't suffered at, whatever XYZ level. I don't know if that's a good question or not.
There's no bad questions. Uh,
That's what they say.
well, there's no bad questions. Um, I mean, I don't want anyone to suffer the way I did.
Hmm. Would you change it?
No,
Hmm.
even a little bit. Not even a little bit. I wouldn't want anyone to go through it, but I wouldn't change it. It has formed me. It has, it's formed my children. My husband has given us focus, resolve.
Hmm.
I mean, again, I don't want to go through it again.
Hmm.
It was a very, it was 12 surgeries.
Hmm.
over 3 years that some of them no one knew about because when you're known for your brain, you're just ready to be done with it. I want to be done with pain, and you just want to get back to normal,
Hmm.
and it's exhausting. It's exhausting. So I don't think I would change it, but I would encourage people who are going through Bible school, anything, just getting ready for what God has for you. I don't think it's just about ministry. I think we need to be careful with pride.
Hmm.
We have to not find our identity in our functions
Hmm.
because guess what? Things can change. My identity was wrapped up in my brain from, I mean,
Hmm.
know if you remember at CFNI, there was a group of us that were like the brainsters. Some of them are not even serving the Lord.
I wasn't in that group apparently.
Well, yeah, I think you were ahead of me. I don't think that you were at CFNI whenever I was there, but maybe you were. I don't remember.
I'm not sure.
But we may have we just didn't have the same friend group, but we were just everything revolved around intellectual, 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 intellectual. And so I I don't I don't necessarily, again, I don't think it's just about a ministry. I think that if like I think of like Kenny and you, uh I listened to Kenny's podcast.
Oh, Kenny Brown Jr.
Oh my gosh, he's just one of my favorite people. I just absolutely admire his wit and his heart for the Lord. He's unmovable in that area. He's always been pretty steady. Uh, but I don't know. I don't. I just think that we have to be careful with our identity in any of that. But
Hmm. I think that's so good. Um, yeah, it kind of it makes me think a lot about preparation and even like raising my own kids because it's like you have this idea of the best way to prepare them or train them or try to give them experiences. But then how do you train somebody or prepare somebody for going through something like what you went through, right? Like how did what you think things were going to be like or should be like change after you experienced what you did? And then how is that working out now in your ministry?
um, I mean, the vision that the Lord gave me for the MENA Leadership Center was from Him.
Mm,
Sometimes the Lord will drop things in your lap and give you opportunity because it's His mission for your life. I didn't have to, I thought I was going to go into academia. And when I got presented the opportunity to build, lead, and run the MENA Leadership Center, that wasn't a dream that I had. That was God's dream. And I'm just stewarding it.
mm,
And so it's one of those things where my health journey has made me very unmovable on my purpose because I
mm,
felt like it was being taken away from me. I have, I have a lot of friends that do great things for the kingdom. My biggest, remember when we went as a world missions advance missionary to Austria? Do you remember that we were one of yours?
I know that is a fact, but the memories are blurry if I'm just being honest.
Yes. So we actually, the whole
Of
reason,
course, I've been over there with Caesar before. Man, it's been 10 years now,
yeah.
since I've been in Austria. Um, but I was, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so we actually went to go work with in Austria. We thought we were going to just be working with college students. We were asked to run the Austrian Baptist Union countrywide, but for students, for university students.
Wow.
But we get there and we realized that the church that we were going to was a Farsi speaking Afghan congregation with Cesar, actually. And that's where the Lord began to plant the seeds for me to work in the region that I work in. But in Austria, everything rises and falls in your education.
Hmm.
You can't do much without the education. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to ever go back to Austria, I want to be able to be used with the refugee to the PhD. And so
Hmm.
I ended up going forward to get my doctorate. And but the Lord always put a passion in my heart for the Middle East, North Africa. And so when I was approached to start the center, I thought that I was building it for someone else to run. And that's the
Hmm.
best place to be, Chad, is whenever you're not
Hmm.
on tight to something that doesn't belong to you. You're just a steward over it.
Hmm.
And so I ended up building the strategic plan, thinking that it was going to be for someone else to run. And then about 9 months into me building out the strategic plan, putting pieces together, I was trying to find people to run it. And the gentleman who was funding it just kept saying, nope, I don't want that person, don't want that person, don't want that person. And then my name got thrown into the hat. And I thought, I mean, I would love to speak into it, but I didn't know that I was going to be the one to run it. And so here we are, uh, 6 years later,
Wow.
and we have trained hundreds of ministries. And
Wow.
it all started, and it literally was birthed, Chad, out of World Missions Advance. You guys provided the covering for my husband and I to serve with Afghanis.
Wow.
And now
Hmm.
you guys are having an impact and the work that you guys have done because you gave us a covering
Hmm.
with us through things. And so I'm so thankful for that. It's been quite formative.
Hmm. Wow. That that just gives me chills, really, you know? Uh, I'm so thankful for what you're doing. And how can we find you, Dr. Jen, and learn more about your ministry? And I want to. We're gonna have to do another episode, I think, because there's so much stuff that I want to ask you, and but I just want to say thank you for sharing your testimony, and it really strengthens my faith and really encourages me, and um thank you for your openness to share and be transparent about that. I am very, very thankful for that. And I know we didn't talk a lot about your ministry, but um, what is MENA and where can we find you?
So, MENA Leadership Center focuses on building the capacity of already existing high impact ministry leaders in a region that are indigenous. So, we don't work with Americans and send them out. We only work with leaders in the region, from the Bible societies to seminaries, to even we're wanting to launch business initiatives to be able to equip business leaders in region from Syria to Lebanon, to be able to give them the tools they need to economically sustain themselves.
Wow.
Um, it's super exciting. I mean, and we're doing on demand courses that are like Netflix style courses, to providing a platform for other ministries to put content on. So we are building that out right now so that we can be a one stop shop, so that people from all over the region can have the tools they need to send out their courses or content. And that has to be a certain quality because we don't want to do anything halfway. So we do expect excellence. Uh, but it's exciting to see that we can be a conduit where ministries that would not even naturally work together are now on the same platform in all different languages. And so we're really excited.
Wow. And wow, that is amazing. So I'll put your website in the description. And thank you so much, Jen, for what you're doing.
Thank you, Chad. I appreciate you.